Good morning, good afternoon, or good night. Welcome to another episode of Rise and Pod with Adrian Conway. Look, we are in the thick of the off season here. Things are literally just getting rolling, and I wanted to tap on and discuss a little bit of this Rogue Invitational. If you guys tapped into the last episode that I recorded, I talked about the programming, the layout, some of my thoughts, and ultimately, just really my opinion on the test in itself. I loved the layout of the tests. I thought they were very fun. I thought they were very appropriate, particularly for what we know Rogue is testing for, which isn't necessarily looking for the fittest on earth. They're testing for a particular competition, and the end result is going to be who's really good at CrossFit in a particular flavor. We know that when the athletes show up on site in Texas for the Rogue Invitational, that they're hosted at Dell Diamond Arena, and it is a very fun vibe. It's typically the week of Halloween, and it is something I got to be a part of last year. I've watched it very closely every year. But it has a very unique flavor, and I say that because we're coming off the high of the CrossFit Games. It is essentially the wrap up for many of the 2023 season when they get there. But for a lot of people, and I think this is what makes it special, for a lot of folks, this is where momentum can be created. I think about athletes last year who went to Rogue and showed out. I think about Chandler Smith making his return at Rogue last year. I think about Laura Horvath putting on an absolute show at Rogue last year with many, many event wins, a great execution. And then I think about the seasons they would go on to have the next year. And so I think a lot of times for athletes that might just come up short of their goals, or athletes that even have a bit of a setback or a challenging year, the Rogue Invitational acts as that. So the qualifier being here already, and it being that time of the year where we're trying to see, okay, what games athletes are going to get ready. They're going to take a very brief break. They're probably not going to do a ton of training leading into doing these qualifiers, because most of these athletes, folks, they need time to deload and reload. And I'm not talking just a couple weeks. I'm talking like a month of time away from the gym, time in the absence of loading. And this takes maturity and really good guidance, but a lot of times that's what these athletes need if they're playing the long game with their fitness. If they're not caught up in this, I've got to be as fit as possible in the next 2 years type approach, which any athlete listening to this, any coach listening to this, I hope and pray that the long game is what you're playing, because this sport can become very dangerous. The level of fitness that needs to be acquired in order to play at a high level, to be at the CrossFit Games, even to be a semifinal athlete, and without the appropriate approach of deloads and reloads, coaches forcing their athletes to get outside of the gym, create a life that is a bit of balance, if you will. I know a lot of people achieve a lot of great things and they get on their pedestal about, there should be no balance in your life. I don't actually believe that. I think that if you want to play the long game, you need balance. If you want to have a healthy perspective on your performance, healthy expectations about yourself and who you are as a human being, you certainly need to have a ton of meaning outside of the sport and outside of the methodology. And I could rant on that for a long time. We could make that a whole different episode of a podcast, of course, which, hey, if y'all want to listen to it, you let me know that you want to listen to it. But today I wanted to get on and talk not specifically about the tests, but the results of the test. Now, folks, it is only Tuesday Mountain Standard Time here, approximately 5 p.m. Got to get ready to go coach youth flag football. I'm a rookie at this, so be praying for me if you're listening to these episodes. But I wanted to literally shoot it a little bit on the results that we see on the leaderboard. And I say about the day and time because they might not be finalized yet. But I was excited when I saw these come out. So I figured let's go ahead and dive in and take a look. If you guys are watching this on the YouTubes, I do have the screen pulled up here as a screen share. And I figure there's no better place than to kind of jump in and go ahead and talk about the men first. And again, I want to lean in and say, I don't know if these are official. And I also want to say, a lot of these results are not surprising. And you're going to notice immediately at the top is we don't have a slew of male competitors, because I'm starting with the men, male competitors that were at the CrossFit Games this year. And there's a few things that, again, people, I alluded to, and I'll let you know. Athletes are resting, athletes are deloading, reloading, and even if they're not completely taken off, they probably made a bit of a last-minute decision to jump into these because they looked so appetizing, or they looked so fun, or they were getting the itch already, or they asked their coach, like, yo, can I jump in on these? So They're taking 5. We're going to start from the bottom and work our way up with Georgos Karavas. Now, I hope that he won't be offended if I am not saying his name accurately. I haven't really covered this athlete very much, and I'm going to go ahead and lean in and tell you guys that historically, he has been to the CrossFit Games 2 times, in 2021 and in 2022. Now, this year, he withdrew from the European semifinal. With that considered, again, something happened there, right? Something happened on the weekend, or he got injured, or he was sick. But to withdraw means that I'm going to tell you right now, as an athlete, as a competitor, you've been to the game several times and you got this opportunity taken from you. He was out for blood on this qualifier. He was probably not necessarily peaked, of course, but he trained hard throughout the summer with this on his mind. He didn't get to taste the CrossFit Games. He didn't get to be on the floor. He didn't get to travel to Madison, Wisconsin. All these things were taken from him, and he experienced them the previous 2 years. This lights a fire on an athlete that you wouldn't believe. I've been on this side. I've qualified for the CrossFit Games as an individual in 2015, 2016, tried to go back as an individual again, and I fell a few points shy. There was nothing more that fired me up for the next year to go team and put together a strong team to go win, other than the lack of success the year before. So with that being said, not that this was a lack of success from Georgios, but it was something that left him desiring more. And I think that, of course, this is a result of that. So we look at his standings here, and I mean, he had a pretty good showing overall. You know, he has a score of 454 in regards to points accumulated throughout the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tests. Technically, there were only 4 workouts, but there were 5 scores. And with that being said, the scores were crazy close, folks. I mean, we got Tudor Magda sitting at 6, who was also on the outside looking in at the CrossFit Games this year. He did not perform the way that I think a lot of us maybe expected him to perform at the semifinal this year, but he had 451 points. Aniol Akai is sitting in 7th with 450 points. And then you get to the top 5, and Georgios only has 3 more points than him at 454. He is tied at number 4 with Travis Mayer. And if you've followed along Travis Mayer, he's had a very stouted CrossFit Games career. They've been to the games several times, and many of them consecutive. He is at a training think tank. He is an affiliate owner. He has many children. He's married. He's got a lot going on in his life, but he has had a tremendous career. Honestly, underspoken about, underpublicized, and undervalued in regards to what he's brought to the community, in my opinion. We're kind of a part of the same generation. I'm a little bit older than him, but I remember getting into the space, competing against Travis in many different things like the OC Throwdown. And just really seeing him, Wadapalooza, and just really seeing him around the space so much, and watch his evolution through time, and what he and Max El-Haj have been able to do as a team, and probably one of the longest standing teams in the game in regards to coach and athlete. I think it's been amazing, but nonetheless, he had an injury this year, so he didn't even go after it, and he started getting himself back in shape. He started training with Alexis Raptis and probably Noah and a few other games athletes out of that camp throughout the summer, doing what he could do. And now all of a sudden he's piecing things back together. And this is a really, really good showing for him. And I'm very excited to see him compete at Rogue this year. And then, of course, in 3rd place, we got the second fittest man in the world last year, Ricky Garrard. Now, Ricky separated his shoulder. And he tore it up bad. Okay, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I don't know the details, but he tore up his shoulder bad. It was a mountain biking accident. Every one of you that's listening to this podcast likely knows and understands that, but we didn't get to see him show his capacity this year. A lot of us talked about that we're there at the CrossFit Games as analysts or covering it, that wow, the programming this year in the CrossFit Games looked like it really would have suited our boy Ricky Garrard. I am super pumped that he's not only fit enough, because we saw that even as he recently competed in a High Rocks competition in Australia, taking 2nd in, I believe, the pro division. He got his fitness back. He got his legs underneath him. I'm certain that he's been training his strength. But what's most impressive to me is that Ricky hit a 303 triple overhead squat. that he was able to successfully hit repetitive repetitions above 245 pounds in a snatch with all those wall facing strict handstand push-ups. Like, to see his capacity and where it stands, being that he went through a full-blown surgery and of course probably was quite patient in his recovery. I know nothing Ricky does is going to be patient. So shout out to Justin Kotler for keeping him in line and yet allowing him the freedom to get ready for something like this. And I say that because I'm a coach myself, and I know that this can be a battle. It's like, do you let Ricky off the chain right now? Is it the best thing for him? It's showing its fruits. Okay, so they've been in their bag. They've been doing their thing when it comes to training and recovery, and of course, this has allowed him to show his fitness here. Ricky with a score of I mentioned that Georgios and Travis were tied at 454. Ricky with 455. This is again how close standings are. And then we've got William, aka Bill Leahy, at number 2 with 456 points. Now, Bill Leahy also withdrew from the semifinal in the West this year. A tremendous athlete. He was on the demo team last year, and he was someone who turned a lot of heads with his presence, the things that he was capable of as a demo athlete, the scores that he would post, and overall just his fitness in general, right? The things that he was capable of, and then it's kind of like he's one of these athletes where when will he seize the moment, right? And as a fan, you got to understand this. Everybody and their mom is fit at this level. Everybody, we could go down through the top 40 of the Rogue Invitational here, folks, and everybody and their mama is fit, right? And I say that because they all got the capacity to do the thing. Okay, they can all run a fast 5K. They can all do 20 to 25 unbroken ring muscle ups. They can all walk on their hands the length of a football field. They can all clean and jerk 350. They can all snatch 280 and above. Right, like this is kind of like, these are becoming quantitative measures that are the run of the mill when you're talking about the fittest on earth. But the separator is this: their ability, their mind, their heart, their ability to seize the moment when the lights are the brightest. Young Bill Leahy, we're going to see when he is able to take that step forward and not just have this fitness because he's got it, but be able to express it at the right time and in the right place in order to be successful in punching his ticket to the CrossFit Games. And then, okay, let's go ahead and continue this on. Number 1, Victor Hoffer. Now, Victor Hoffer is a young athlete, kind of another babyface killer. If I could describe him physically, a bit of a wiry lad. Not necessarily, I'm not calling you small, Victor, nothing like that. But reminds me of James Hobart, right? And here's the deal: we haven't seen him at the CrossFit Games yet, but we know that in 2021 and in 2022, relatively on a solid team. So he's got experience on the semifinal floor. This year, he went individual in the European semifinal and he finished 13th overall. Now, again, extremely competitive semifinal. In fact, one of the most competitive ones that exist. So when you see someone that has this capacity, finished 13th, he's on the come up of his career, he's flexed the experience side by kind of hiding himself within a team and probably gaining tremendous amounts of experience, but also fitness training at a high level with CrossFit Lowlands. I'm sorry, at the CrossFit Lowlands Throwdown is where he threw down there in those semifinals. But when he did that, and he's now listed at CrossFit Grillin', I'm not sure if that was the team he was on, but you get the idea, the value that it offers young athletes to be on a team like that. Now, to see him again, now he's from France, so I'm assuming, he semifinals wrapped, he took his time off. He got back to work sometime during the summer while everyone else that he wants to beat was training for the CrossFit Games, and he got a few months of preparation and a lead on them going into the 2024 season. It's showing right now in instances like this for the Rogue Invitational. Now, when we look at his score, it is a bit more set apart than the rest. I mean, from 5th place to 2nd place, folks, we got 2 points to separate all those athletes. And then we got Victor Hoffer sitting at the top at 469. To me, that's a statement. He overhead squatted 319 for a triple. He's got some fast times for a lot of these scores. But I'm super excited to see, what happens with this leaderboard, this overall leaderboard with Victor, Bill, Ricky, Travis, and Georgios, and if they will accept the invitation. You got to assume that they're ready to compete, and that's why they wanted to do it. So it's going to be exciting on the men's side. Some notable people who gave this thing a run were Tyler Christoffel finishing 8th, Jason Hopper at 10th. And I'm a little surprised by this. Okay, and here's the reason I say this. Jason Hopper had a very less than performance at the CrossFit Games. We're just going to call it like it is. I'm sure he would agree and say the same thing. He just didn't step up. He didn't show his fitness. Some things could have been off. I don't know. And it personally, it's none of my business, but it's all my business because I'm sitting here talking about it. I'm an analyst of the sport. I get to do things and talk about these athletes. Less than desirable. For him to stick his neck out on the line and go ahead and throw down at this and finish 10th, to me, it's a pretty good sign. Now, these tests are tests that I would assume Jay would do well at. So even to find himself on the outside looking in, I know that does that hurt his pride? Does this blunt the momentum that he's hoping to create this offseason, right? Did he say like, hey, I'm going to get focused and I'm qualifying for Rogue. I'm going to Rogue. Was that like his mindset? And then did that make it more sensitive now that he's not going to Rogue? Right. And you got to think about that again, like I was talking about with Justin Kotler and even considering this with Ricky Garrard. Like, is this an okay time for Matt or Jake, whoever decided to from the HWPO camp to be like, yo, Jay, go for this, go do this thing? Like, was the time appropriate? And now does this beat him down even more that he didn't qualify for the Rogue? I don't know. But these are all considerations that I take and that I think about as an athlete and as a coach. So I'm assuming that you guys think about it too. And if you don't, now you know. Let's see. Jack Rosema, 15th. Luka Jukic, 16th. James Sprague, 18th. Jorge Fernandez, of course, a part of CrossFit Invictus that just won the Affiliate Cup, finished in 19th. Jorge was able to finish in the top 5 last year and punch his ticket to Rogue, so we got to watch him compete. Colton Mertens gave it a run, finished 22nd. Alex Vigneault, 23rd. Alexander Caron, 24th. Joshua Alchama, who also is on CrossFit Invictus team, finished 25th. Uldis Upanix, 27th. I'm skipping by a lot of names. I'm kind of throwing some notables out there. Royce Dunn, 32. Nick Matthew, 33. Christoph Horvath, of course, Laura's brother, 35th. Let's see. And we'll kind of stop there. That kind of puts us through the top 40. Let's jump to the female side and talk the ladies a little bit. Now, we're going to start down at the bottom at Elena Karatala Sanhuja. And again, Elena, forgive me if I am pronouncing your name inappropriately. Again, doing my best that I can. This was short notice. I just hopped on and just started recording. So nonetheless, we have seen her at the CrossFit Games in 2022. She was at the games, and let's see, she finished 38th. She was the 38th fittest woman in the world in 2022. This year, she finished 27th in the European semifinal. Now, again, not following her super closely, but I know that she finished 40th in quarters. And I'm talking 40th in the world. She finished 18th in Europe. And in regards to the Open, folks, she finished 1st in Europe, and she finished 7th in the world. To me, this shows that she might be a little bit more body weight, centric in regards to like a lighter athlete, highly cyclical, good at gymnastics, good inverted, good with local muscle endurance in the shoulders. We know that got tested at a high level in the Open in regards to that snatch and wall walk and handstand push-up test. But nonetheless, one of the fittest women in the world. And almost at each phase, as the test got a little bit more broader, she had less success. So again, this is one of those athletes, chip on the shoulder, hungry, got in her bag shortly after semifinals. I don't know if she was healthy taking that test for a ride. I don't know if all the ergs gave her struggle. I don't know if the heavy sled gave her struggle. The max lift gave her struggle, right? There's a lot of things to consider. I need to go back, do some more homework, and watch her perform. Shout out to CrossFit. Let's go ahead and get that wide view so I can watch these athletes all perform and not be limited to what's actually shown just right there, right? Let's get that wide view. I'll pay for it. For me to watch individually, not to fund, of course, everyone to see it, but I'd assume everybody that is interested would put out a little cash and investment to be able to watch that wide view, study some film a little bit. Look, for her to finish like that again, chip on the shoulder, she got in her bag, she rested, and she got to work. She finished 5th, and on the leaderboard here, sorry, I'm pulling up the wrong thing, so I'm a little lost. 463 points. Now, unlike the men, there's a healthier gap here between 5th and 6th place. Christine Kohlenbrander, coming fresh off the CrossFit Games, finished in 6th with 447. Elena had 463, so a bit of a gap there. Then we get to Manon Aganes, and she, let's see here. She finished 35th at the CrossFit Games this year. Okay, so she was there. She somehow got deloaded and reloaded, and maybe it was getting cut. Maybe it was the fact that she had in her mind that she wanted to go back to Rogue anyways. I know that she was present last year, but she got her fitness to where it needed to be so she could thrive. And I'd be interested. I'd love to have conversation with some of these athletes and be like, "Yo, what was your time off like? Like, how did you even feel psychologically and physiologically ready to go to this intensity in this qualifier, being that the CrossFit Games was just such a short while ago?" And I got to be honest, and I'll share with you guys, a lot of times making it there is what fires you up, right? So it's like whether you had success at the CrossFit Games or not, it's the simple fact that you made it fueled your fire. So perhaps she's dealing with a little bit of that, and maybe that was exactly what she needed it to be. And she has 466 points. Then Taylor Howe from CrossFit Faction. Let's see, what do I know about Taylor? Okay, Taylor Howe, she's from the United Kingdom. She finished 21st this year in the European semifinal. We have yet to see her at the CrossFit Games. But she's been in the game for a minute, doing the Open since 2015. She quarterfinals finished 59th in the world, 23rd in Europe. She'd been on a team in 2018, way back in the day. Her semifinal appearances, though, she been rocking it and rolling it since 2021, and she did get to participate in the last chance qualifier in 2022. Of course, we know if you followed the season closely this year, they removed that aspect of our season in 2023. But finishing 21st in Europe wouldn't have gotten her the opportunity to do the last chance qualifier anyways. But again, what we're looking at here is an athlete that had plenty of time to deload and reload, and of course, do her thing in her training. She is tied in points with number 2, Sydney McAlishan, who we've seen at the CrossFit Games before. I think. Let's see. I'm quite sure. Don't get it twisted, folks. I have a pretty short memory, but yeah, she's been there twice, 2021 and 2022. 2022, she finished overall in 31st place, and was also cut in 2021. But, these are things to keep in mind in regards to where athletes are in their career, where they're finishing against other top contenders in our sport. This year, she ended up finishing 15th in North America West, which, of course, when you look at the layout, okay, just to be fair, the layout of the West and the East, North America West, certainly a bit of a weaker competitive field on the female side than North America East. And I think that's relatively reflected in the CrossFit Games standing. This is actually something we need to go back and revisit. Maybe I'll talk about it on another episode. Is what did the standings shake out like East and West in the top 10, in the top 20 at the CrossFit Games versus on the field of strength, the amount of spots that they got. And of course, we know this will all influence what happens in 2024 with the availability of spots from the West and the East and Europe and Oceania, et cetera. Is based on how athletes perform, which is, of course, I'm a big fan of that and interested to see how it continues to play out. But nonetheless, Sydney McAlishan, she handled business. Probably another chip on her shoulder, probably a fresh body and fresh mind with watching others take the field. And now she's ready to go get it at Rogue. Danny Spiegel, folks, number 1. Now, this is the one. I got some things here. Okay, Danny Spiegel. Spiegel been getting all kinds of riffraff and hate. Okay, Spiegel said that she's not really focused on the CrossFit Games so much. She wants to build her own personal brand. She wants to be bigger than CrossFit. All those things. I don't hate on those things because, as an athlete, I think that you can't only be, a businessman, but you got to understand that you're a business man or woman, right? So she understands that. And I think Rogue, she identifies as an opportunity, not only an opportunity for her career, but also an opportunity for her to thrive in regards to the way the test plays out. They had a long endurance event last year. They threw on a ruck and they did a lot of running. There were sandbags in it. She was chilling in the back, right? She wasn't worried about that. She put on her t-shirt though for that log lift and she showed out. Girls who eat, right? Or girls that eat or whatever. I'm sorry. Danny, that I'm perverting the slogan, but she's got some off the field success, out of the gym success with building her own personal brand. She's making it what she wants to make it. She didn't qualify to the CrossFit Games though. And she leaned in and said, it's more than the CrossFit Games to me. It's all this and all that. But at what point is you building a brand a distraction from, if you want to stay relevant, you got to keep first things first, right? This is a swing back in the right direction for her. Not only is she showing that she perhaps is keeping first things first, but with strategy. Maybe she wanted to particularly be ready for Rogue because of the stage that presents, because of the way that it's broadcast, because of the smaller field, because of her ability to have success with the way these tests play out, versus maybe she was going to be on the struggle bus a lot of the CrossFit Games this year. Sure, she'd have got the shine and the clean and jerk and the snatch. Great. But maybe this is even more valuable for her. Maybe the scope is a little bit more narrow at the Rogue Invitational, or even more broad in the sense that it really pulls in the strongman crowd as well. And what other women wouldn't want to see another woman from the strongman world competing and being physically strong and doing her thing? So Danny Spiegel, shout out to you. This could be one of the best PR moves that I've seen in quite a while. And I think it's an ode to her fitness, because let me tell you, she blew everybody out of the water. She finished with a total of 486 points. Sydney McAllister was second with 469. That's a big gap of separation when we look about how close the scores were throughout. But folks, I just want to give you a basic rundown of the top 5. It's kind of always a checkup on with where some athletes are, who's willing to stick their neck out on the line post CrossFit Games, and also who has some urgency in regards to creating momentum for the 2024 CrossFit season. I think this is a place where two things happen. You put an exclamation point on your season that just passed, or you build that momentum for the season to come. We're going to see some new faces rise here. And I'm not saying new faces like brand new. We know most of the field is going to be made up of athletes that were at the CrossFit Games, but there's going to be opportunity for people who didn't perform that great at the games, and they're going to have a chance to go get it at Rogue, because the programming is different. It's a quality show. It's in the heat of the tail end of the season, but really, to me, it's that first taste of 2024, right? It's not quite Wadapalooza, but we're getting there. And again, I'm gonna finish here with some women real quick. Christine Colombander, very close second. Kyra Milligan, an athlete to watch closely. I know that she's out of Underdogs camp, and she went on a team with Mayhem this year, but finishing 7th. Now, again, this is the style of competition she's going to lean into and do well at. She's a power-based athlete, so she had a chance here and wasn't able to quite to seize the points needed to punch her ticket. Sarah Sigmundsdottir finished 9th. It's good to see her back in it. I know she's also out there with Kotler now, which is relatively new as of like semifinals this year. Lauren Fisher finished 10th. Brittany Weiss, a CrossFit Invictus athlete, finished 12th. Let's see any other notables. And I'm going to leave some athletes out. I apologize. Ashley Wozni finished 20th overall. Let's see. Victoria Campos got back on it, and she finished 21st. By the way, I was surprised kind of to see Guy not go get it. Does Guy get invited anyways? I don't know. Hey, it's Rogue's event. Katie and Bill can invite whoever they want. I'll say, yo, invite the showstopper. See where Guy's at if he wants to throw down. I thought maybe he would be ready and want to go get it here. Maddie Sturt finished 22nd. Devin Kim, also from CrossFit Invictus, on the team. I see another CrossFit Invictus athlete, Emily Rethwell. Again, I don't know a ton about her particularly, but it just stands out to me that she's coming out of that gym again. Zoe Warren out of Backcountry CrossFit. We got Caroline Prevost, 31st. Let's see, Elia Miller, 34th. And then Christy Bishop out of CrossFit Torian, 39th. So there are some notable folks that are on the outside looking in. Respect everybody who was at the CrossFit Games, either on a team or indie, and you're already throwing your hat in the ring, because that's not easy to do. That's not easy to do. But nonetheless, folks, I'm going to get off here. I wanted to shoot my shot in regards to just a quick synopsis of what I see on the leaderboard. I'm going to try to keep up with a lot of the sport this offseason a little bit more closely, and it's going to be just me here. I'm shooting it for the most part, giving you guys my thoughts and my analysis, and of course, always willing to share my opinion. I hope that you enjoy it. Tune in for some of the short format episodes that are meant to help you get your mind right and stay focused on the task at hand to continue to see growth and continue to rise to new levels within your own life. And those are, of course, some episodes that I drop kind of periodically throughout the week as we go. But hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I don't know if I'll be broadcasting or on the team at Rogue, but I really enjoyed it last year. And either way, even if I'm not, I'm going to find a way to talk about it and maybe even be broadcasting it to you here from the comforts of my own home. So we'll see how that all plays out, folks. But thanks for joining me. Have a great rest of your day wherever you're at, and go get some fitness. Don't just listen to it.